So you want to get into the laser diode game, but you're not sure which way to go. Hi everyone, Ainsley here from Small Fry Creations, where we tackle everything DIY, and today we're putting two of the common laser brands head to head with their new 20-watt laser heads. So let's roll the intro and get to testing. The great folks at Sculpfun and Xtool have sent over their 20-watt lasers so that I can put them head to head. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you'll know that I am a fan of the Sculpfun brand. I think it is extremely beginner and budget friendly, but I hear so many great things about the Xtool, and it is at that higher end of the market, so I'm keen to compare the two and see if there are any major differences. And hopefully, if you are looking to get into the lasering game, this video will help you make a decision. The team at Sculpfun have sent over the S30 Pro Max, and the Xtool team have sent over the D1Pro. Now, to compare the two, I am going to use 5 categories. They are the build time, the cut quality and efficiency, the engraving quality, the accessories that you can get with both of the lasers, and of course the cost. But the first thing we need to do is put these things together, and for that we're going to need some help. I can give you a hand. Okay, ready, set, go! Lasers are put together. Sculpfun took 40 minutes, Xtool took an hour, so a fairly quick setup. In terms of instructions, they're basically the same. Both have colored pictures with some words. Both have YouTube channels with instructional videos to put them together, which I strongly recommend that you watch because they do pass on extra tips and tricks to help you throughout the build process. Now, in terms of the biggest differences between the lasers at this stage, I think it comes down to cable management. Xtool goes the extra mile to hide the cables in saying that you can still see them, but they are more exposed on the Sculpfun. What I don't like about that is that it is extra fiddly to put together, which is why it took me a little longer to get the Xtool together. I don't love on the Xtool that the control box is exposed. I'm a woodworker, so this may or may not apply to you, and I don't have the laser in the shop when I am woodworking, but having an exposed control box like that does mean it's more susceptible to dust, whereas Sculpfun does a better job at protecting it from that. The other thing to note on the Xtool, you're gonna have to run 2 power cables, one for the air assist and one for the laser, whereas on the Sculpfun, you're only running the 1 power cable because the air assist is powered through the control box, and I'll go more into detail on that when we get to the accessories. But I think we are at the point where we can fire up these lasers and start to run some tests and see what the big differences, if there are any, between the two lasers. Alright, I'm up and running, and my initial first tests have been run. Now, with every laser that I have ever had in the past, there is always time and energy on the startup to get connected, get the belts tensioned correctly, and get familiar with your laser. In saying that, the Sculpfun has worked out of the box. I have not had any issues with it, and the test ran really smooth. I have had some trouble with the Xtool. Couple of things. The 2 side pieces that have the belts already installed have these screws on the side that you need to loosen and tighten to tension the belts. Out of the box, both of my screws were stripped, so it has taken me a good couple of hours to get those screws out. I've had to go to Bunnings, get replacement screws, and come back and get them reinstalled. They are now working fine. The other problem I had was with the gantry, where it was really loose on one side. Turns out that it is this rod down here. I just must not have installed it correctly when I was building it. I've uninstalled, reinstalled it. It is now working. Now, if you are going to get a laser, any brand, I cannot recommend enough getting on Facebook and joining the user groups for your laser. They are the #1 place to head if you are having any issues or questions with your laser. They have been able to solve both of my problems that I had with the Xtool, and in the past they have been able to solve problems with the Sculpfun. They're far more responsive, and if you search within those groups, you are probably going to find someone that has had the exact same issue as you, and the comments are normally filled with a bunch of different solutions. So that is is my #1 tip if you are going to get any laser. In terms of software, I'm using Lightburn to run both of the machines. I think that's the fairest because it's the program I'm most familiar with, and it is a paid service, but I strongly recommend it. I think it is extremely great value for money. It offers fantastic functionality, and if you're a beginner, I also think it's the way to go because there is so much information out there about getting up and running with Lightburn. But in saying that, Xtool does offer free software. It's the Xtool Creative Space, and if you're going to use Lightburn, you still need the Creative Space because there's some stuff you have to set up with the laser in there before you jump across to Lightburn. But it is something to consider because it is an extra cost. Now, if you are going down the Xtool path and you want to use Lightburn, I will leave a video link in the description below to a video from Buster Beagle 3D where he runs you through in depth how to set up the Xtool D1Pro with Lightburn. Now let's take a look at the test panels. I'm going to show you close-ups of them, but as you can see by the results, they're exactly the same. You could argue that the Sculpfun is slightly cleaner on the engrave, but that would be splitting hairs between the two different lasers at this stage. And to be honest, I'm not surprised. They're both 20-watt lasers fresh out of the box, and although the test panels are good, I don't really find that it resembles real life. But what they are helpful for is to help set up your settings. It gives me a ballpark of where I need to be, and then I can fine-tune from there. I think the best way to real world test these machines is to make a bunch of different projects using a bunch of different materials. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make the exact same projects on both of the machines so that we can see if there's any differences in terms of speed, quality, and accuracy. So with that being said, let's get creative and start making stuff. look at the completed projects, let's have a quick chat about the different accessories you can get for both of the machines. Accessory number 1 is a honeycomb bed, and if you're going to do any sort of cutting with your laser, it is a must-have accessory or something similar that is going to raise your workpiece up off the ground. Both brands sell them. I think Xtool's is slightly better because it's a little bit bigger, covers more of the work area, but you could always use an Xtool honeycomb bed with the Sculpfun. In fact, you could use it with any brand. I think it is a really great sized honeycomb. Accessory number 2 is an enclosure, and these 20-watt lasers put out a ton of smoke, so you definitely want to be in a well-ventilated area and have them in an enclosure if you can. Both brands sell them, or you could make your own. I'm probably going to go down the route of making my own, so if that's something you're interested in, be sure to be subscribed to the channel because you're probably going to see it sometime in the future. But the main advantage is that you can run piping to the outdoors and vent all of that smoke out there, making your workspace a whole lot safer. Accessory number 3 is a rotary, and if you want to laser anything cylinder around, this is the attachment you're going to need, and this is where the Xtool shines. In my opinion, when it comes to diode lasers, their rotary attachment might just be the best on the market because they include a bunch of different accessories that means you're going to be able to grip onto just about anything out there. Sculpfun's isn't bad, but depending on what you're lasering, you might need to make a jig or two to be able to hold your item level. I love that Xtool's is just ready to go out of the box and really easy to use. It should also be noted that they include cables to allow their rotary to be used with other brands, but you want to do your research first to make sure that it is compatible with the brand of laser that you have, but it's a really great accessory in my opinion. Accessory number 4 is an extension kit, and this allows you to expand your work area, and Sculpfun wins in this category as they sell a couple of different kits and they allow you to expand on both the Y and the X axes, whereas at the time of recording this video, Xtool will only expand on the Y axis. And what I like about the kits is it creates flexibility. It might not be an accessory that you need right away, but as you move through your lasering journey, you might find a need or a want to expand on your work area. And as it stands, Sculpfun, you can currently expand up to just under 1 meter by 1 meter, which might be really helpful depending on what you're lasering. Accessory number 5 is a game changer, and that is air assist. If you're doing any sort of cutting, it's an accessory you're going to want as it will increase your speed and also give you much better results. And this is where Sculpfun sets itself aside from the competition as they provide auto air assist. And what that means in Lightburn, you can program to have your air assist to come on for those cut layers and off for those engraved layers, and it will do the project all in one motion. Whereas Xtool, you're going to have to send the laser out to do the engrave, rehome the machine, turn your air assist on, and then send it out for those cut layers. It just creates really great efficiency, and it's an accessory that I have really been enjoying using. Let's focus in on each of the lasers and talk about my likes and dislikes. I've narrowed it down to 3 of each for both of the lasers, and let's start with the Sculpfun. The first thing that I don't like is the height adjustment. You have to use this cylinder, which is fine, but there is no built-in storage for the cylinder, and if you don't create one, this is probably going to go walkabouts. I don't know why Sculpfun does this. It's the same with all of their lasers, and what I have done in the past and what I would do on this occasion is I 3D print a thing that I can attach into the T-track here at the front to store that pin, because otherwise that 100% is going to go walkabouts. The second thing that I don't like is cable management. There's just cables everywhere. It's nice that there's only one power cord because the air assist is plugged into the control box, but you do still have cables everywhere, which can be kind of annoying. The third thing I don't like about the S30 Pro Max is the reduced work area because of the limit switches. When you compare the work area to something like the Xtool, you are reduced by about 20 or 30 mil in both directions. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but there were times when I was doing the testing that I would have liked just that extra little space for the laser to move around. And depending on what you're lasering, that may or may not be an issue, but it is something at times that I found annoying. Now let's get to the good stuff and talk about what I like about the Sculpfun S30 Pro Max. Hands down, the first thing I like is the auto air assist. It's an absolute game changer in my opinion because I can press start on the project and have it run from start to finish without me having to do something part way through, because the air will automatically turn on when it gets to those cut layers. The second thing that I like is the ability to extend the work area. By extending the X and the Y axes, I can go up to as big as 900 by 900, which just increases my ability to complete projects that are on a larger scale and just creates even more flexibility within the laser itself. The third thing I like about the Sculpfun is the fact that they include replacement lenses in the box standard. The reality is that at some point your laser lens is going to burn out. So being able to have a replacement lens on standby that you can quickly replace and keep moving with the project means you don't have any downtime on waiting on parts, and it keeps your efficiency up and you can keep moving with the project, especially if you have a client project where you're on a deadline. That no longer is going to be a problem because you can replace your lens and keep moving. Now let's focus in on the Xtool, and we'll start with the stuff that I don't like. The first one's probably obvious considering how much I love it on the Sculpfun, and that is the lack of auto air assist. It's not the end of the world, and the air assist with the Xtool works totally fine, but now that I've had the luxury of the auto, I find it really annoying to send the laser out to do the engrave, having to rehome the machine, turn the air assist on, and then send it out to do the cut layers. The second thing I don't like about the Xtool is the exposed control panel, and we spoke about this at the beginning of the video. I'm in a woodworking shop, and just before I was using the table saw to finish off the projects, and I didn't want to drag the lasers in and out of the house, and as a result there is now a fine level of dust on that control panel. So if this is going to stay in the workshop, I'm definitely going to have to do something about it, because I think having that dust on the control panel is going to affect the performance over time of the laser. The third thing I don't like about the laser might sound strange, but it's hard to know that the laser is still on. The only noise that a laser really emits is from the fan, and when you compare it to Sculpfun where the fan runs the entire time the laser is on, the Xtool fan only powers up when it's in use. Now this might be an advantage because it probably extends the life of the fan because it's not running all of the time, but there were times when I walked into the house for 10 or 15 minutes and didn't realize that I'd left the laser on. And the downside is that if I finish up for the night and walk inside and not remember to check the laser, there's every chance that I'm going to leave it on overnight, which is probably not ideal. Now, of course, let's talk about the good stuff and the things that I like about the Xtool D1Pro. And the first thing I like is cable management. All of the cables are nice and neat and tucked away. In saying that, it is annoying to have the air assist tube hanging out the top. And I did find as I was running the tests, at times the air tube would get caught between the frame and the gantry. But I do like that the belts and everything are nice and tucked away and hidden, and just the overall appearance of the laser. The second thing I like about the laser is an accessory, which is the rotary accessory, because in my opinion it's the best one on the market. Just having all of those accessories and being able to easily grip onto just about any object is going to make lasering those cylinder objects that much easier. So I really like the rotary accessory that comes with the Xtool. The third thing I like about the Xtool is the cover for the laser beam. The diode lasers emit a really dangerous laser beam that you do not want to expose your eyes to. You want to make sure you're wearing your laser glasses at all times. And the Xtool covers around all four sides, whereas the Sculpfun only covers the front and the two sides. And I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but I did notice as I was moving around the workshop and in and out of the workshop, even though I had my glasses on, it was a little bit easier to catch the light on the Sculpfun than it was on the Xtool. So I really like that it covers that beam all the way around on four sides. Now that you've heard my likes and dislikes, let's take a look at the projects and my thoughts on the machines as I've moved through testing. To start with, I've made the exact same projects on both of the machines using the exact same settings. And I haven't tested every material that these machines are capable of cutting and engraving. If that's the type of review you're after, that already exists. What I'm trying to do is test the machines in a real world setting with materials that I see a lot of people using. Now at a high level, these lasers are exactly the same. It is hard to know which project has come from which laser. Now in saying that, there are two major differences that I have found between the two machines. The first one being the time it takes to complete a project. With all of the projects, the Xtool was slightly slower than the Sculpfun. It ranged anywhere from 10 seconds to a minute and a half, and I think it comes down to the speed at which the laser head is moving when it's not firing. Now I haven't changed any of the settings in Lightburn. They are stock standard out of the box, and you might be able to play around with the settings to make Xtool a little bit quicker, because if you are doing production work, that lost time is going to start to mount up. Now the second thing that is different between the two machines is probably the most important, and that is the consistent cut quality. I had trouble with the Xtool getting consistent cut quality. And if we take a look at some of the examples, in particular the wine boxes, if you have a look at the rainbow on the Xtool, it hasn't cut all the way through compared to the Sculpfun. And the biggest difference that you could find was when I did the birthday scatters. When I lifted the plywood up for the Sculpfun, the birthday scatters just fell straight through, whereas with Xtool, I had to push them all the way through for them to come out. Now again, you could probably play around with the settings, but I was using the exact same settings with them. Now you could, if you were going to get nitpicky like we spoke about at the top of the video with the testing files, Sculpfun is slightly cleaner on the detail and the engrave. The only place though that I've been able to notice it is with the birthday scatters, and in particular the word celebrate. If you have a look at them, you can slightly tell that the Sculpfun is a little bit cleaner and better at the detail than Xtool, but honestly that would be nitpicking. Now that you've had my thoughts on the machines, the last thing I want to talk about is cost, and then I'm going to tell you my thoughts on which way I would go if I was purchasing a laser today. Now when it comes to pricing, it can be hard to compare because you can get the lasers from a bunch of different websites and you can get each of the lasers in a couple of different bundle options. So to try and keep this easy, I'm going to deal in Aussie dollars, I'm not going to include shipping, and I'm going to bundle the lasers with the accessories that I think you should get if you're getting into lasering today. So the pricing is going to include the laser, the honeycomb bed, the air assist, and also the rotary attachment. So many people get their laser without the rotary and then they fall in love with their laser, and before you know it, they're ordering the rotary attachment. So I say just get it from the outset. Now with that being said, the cheapest I could find the Xtool at the time of recording this video was on amazon.com.au, and it was for $2,547. When you compare that to Sculpfun, the cheapest I could find was on Banggood or TomTop.com, and that is for $1,489. So you're saving over $1,000 if you go with Sculpfun. Now in my opinion, I think the better machine is the Sculpfun. Just being able to have the flexibility of the expansion kits, the auto air assist, which is a game changer, and the replacement lenses that come in the box so that if you're in the middle of a project and something goes wrong, you can replace the lens and keep moving, to me makes this machine really great value for money and the one that I'm going to continue to recommend. But in saying that, Xtool is a fantastic machine. There is absolutely nothing wrong with it, and it has its advantages. You don't have to go and get light burn. You can use the Xtool Creative Space, or you can go and get another laser module which will allow you to laser onto metals, which you can't do with the Sculpfun at the moment. So depending on your needs and the area, your pricing also might be different. Xtool might be the way to go for you, but for me, I think you just can't beat the value for money and the consistent cut quality that you get with the Sculpfun. Now, if you're on the fence about getting into lasering, jump right in. I promise you, you will not regret it. It is so much fun. It opens so many possibilities and your creativity is endless. Now, I hope this video has helped you out. As always, all of the links that you need for this video, you will find it down in the description. And I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, help me out by hitting those subscribe and like buttons, and I'll see you on the next one.